Washington, D.C. is the capital of the biggest superpower on the planet, or at least was. It's the heart of an empire, the center of America's political machine, and the root of all that is good and evil about this nation. For those who believe in a ruling elite who want nothing more than to seize greater levels of power, Washington, D.C. represents the nucleus of a dark cabal, a secret society of wealthy oligarchs that dictate our lives. But is there really any evidence of that? As it turns out, Washington, D.C. is filled with all kinds of strange symbols and signs that seem to point to this truth. Take a closer look at this city, and you'll soon discover that America's connection with the occult is far more obvious than you might have realized.
51 million people entering another
surveillance camera capturing the
unidentified flying
lockdowns and mass testing.
Today, that the world is going to end.
First of all, it's important to understand that Washington, D.C. was established by founding fathers like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Alexander Hamilton in 1790. Before this date, Washington, D.C. didn't even exist. The founding fathers were able to design and plan the entire city from the ground up. Keep this in mind when considering the various strange coincidences of city planning, such as streets that form the shape of a pentagram. You should also know that many of these founding fathers were rumored to be part of various secret societies, such as Illuminati, the Rosicrucians, and the Freemasons. Just something to keep in the back of your mind as we cover Washington, D.C.'s various occult, secret symbols hidden in plain sight. The Washington Monument is one of the most well-known landmarks in Washington, D.C. It's also a modern example of an obelisk, a stone monument that was used heavily by the ancient Egyptians. But why would the founding fathers want to use an ancient Egyptian symbol for their new city? Could this be a reference to an ancient bloodline of elites that goes back all the way to the pharaohs? Another interesting fact is that the Washington Monument is exactly 555 feet tall, or 6,660 inches. Combined with the pentagram injury found throughout Washington, this is a very strange coincidence indeed. Obelisks also represent success, strength, and immortality. So does this mean that the obelisk is celebrating the number 666? And giving strength to everything that numbers represent? At first glance, there's nothing strange about the Abraham Lincoln Memorial. It's a beautiful statue honoring one of America's most well-known presidents. And that's it, right? Look closely underneath Abraham's arms. His chair is decorated in a very peculiar way, with what looks like rods tied together in bundles. This isn't just a random detail, and these bundles of rods are highly symbolic. They're known as fasces, and they originate from ancient Rome. The rods symbolize the people of the nation, bundled together as one by a central authority and used for a single purpose. As you might have guessed, the word fascism comes from the word fasces. The image of bundled wooden rods has been used for various fascist groups over the years, including Mussolini's Italy and Hitler's Germany. So what is a fascist symbol doing in the memorial of Abraham Lincoln? The truth is that the fasces are found everywhere in the United States, on stone monuments, in courtrooms, and even behind presidents as they give their speeches. Some suggest that this could have been a subtle hint that although the United States is a democratic nation on the surface, it is in fact ruled by a group of powerful elites. Another obvious example of strange occult symbolism is the Pentagon. The official story is that the five-sided shape was chosen to maximize space and fit within a chosen plot of land, close to Washington, D.C. But did it really have to be a five-sided shape? What if the designers purposefully chose that shape because it had occult symbolism? Some also point out that the Pentagon is filled with concentric pentagrams, not only symbolizing Satanism, but also infinity and power. Construction of the Pentagon also commenced precisely on September 11th of 1941, and exactly 60 years later, the Pentagon was attacked in one of the worst moments in our nation's history. There's also a Masonic temple hidden in plain sight within Washington, D.C. Known as the House of the Temple, this building is home to the Supreme Council. The full name of this order is, get ready for it, the Supreme Council of the Inspector General, Knights Commander of the House of the Temple of Solomon, of the 33rd degree of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry of the Southern Jurisdiction of the United States of America. It was modeled after the ancient tomb of Mausolus, which was one of the original 7 wonders of the world. The building is also guarded by 2 sphinxes, which symbolize secret societies and mystery schools. In addition, the temple is located right at the top of the pentagram supposedly formed by Washington's streets. Inside the Capitol, there is a painted fresco on the ceiling called the Apotheosis of Washington. For those who don't know, the word apotheosis means transforming into a god. In other words, the painting depicts George Washington becoming a god. In the painting, George Washington is shown wearing purple robes, which symbolizes royalty. This is a strange choice, especially considering the Founding Fathers were fighting a war against the royal family of England. At least on the surface, they were very against a royal ruling elite. So why were they depicting themselves as not just royal, but gods? There are many additional details to consider, and the fasces once again make its appearance as a symbol of fascism. In fact, the figure holding the fasces is supposed to represent liberty, which doesn't really make sense because individual liberty is essentially the exact opposite of fascism. Was this another subtle sign that freedom in this country is just an illusion? It goes without saying that the Founding Fathers are to be venerated as some of the most incredible human beings in history. Without them, we wouldn't have the Constitution, which allegedly protects us from the tyranny of the government in many ways. That being said, it seems clear that the Founding Fathers loved using symbolism and subtle clues, and they obviously left behind many hidden mysteries for us to uncover. If we look closely, we might just discover the truth about what America really is.